The Florida heat wave continues to build. What's going on, guys? I'm certified meteorologist Jonathan Kagas. In this video, we're, of course, going to talk about the heat, but it's not just about the heat. It's that storm chances, for the most part, are also staying painfully low. So we're not really cooling things off a little bit as we get into the afternoon. We're going to break all of that down for you, talk about why it's so hot, hotter than what we're typically used to in Florida, and then when this heat wave could potentially break. I'm talking about the feels like temperatures of 110 or above going away for a little bit of time. Before we get into the video, if you want to stay updated on all things Florida weather, hit that subscribe button. If you find this video helpful, also give it a thumbs up. It really does help us out a lot. All right, so what you see here, these are the heat alerts issued by the National Weather Service. There are some historical purposes or historical value here. The National Weather Service out of Melbourne, Florida, issued their first ever excessive heat warning dating back to when those products first became in use, and that was really for around the Lake Okeechobee area. There are different National Weather Services depending upon what part of the state you live. Miami, there's one. Melbourne, there's one, of course, in Jacksonville, and then Tampa also has one. There are several different offices throughout Florida, but again, that is the first time ever that a few of the counties, especially around Lake Okeechobee and then southwest and west of Miami, have been in excessive heat warning. So again, this heat does have some historic value when it comes to the heat index, when the humidity factored in, not breaking too many temperature records. We'll get into that in just one second. The reason for the higher than normal temperatures than what we are even used to, and again, in the dog days of summer where we typically have our hottest weather, is because of this big chunk of high pressure about 15,000 feet above your head here. It's a big upper high, really a couple high pressure cells. One big one over the southwest Atlantic, extending all the way back towards the Gulf of Mexico. And this one over the Gulf has really been the reason for the atypical weather pattern, especially through the Gulf side of Florida through the summer. Is the reason for the searing heat across a lot of the state. When we get these chunks of high pressure in the mid-levels to really encompass a large area, it promotes sinking air. When air sinks, it dries out, it warms up. So that is why we're going to be drier than what we typically are over the next really week or 10 days. And much hotter than what we typically are over the next 7 to 10 days. So I kind of tip my hand. We're going to be dealing with this excessive heat for a little more than a week. I want to show you the Central Florida perspective over the next couple of days, really Wednesday, Thursday, into Friday. And then I'm going to talk about the longevity of this and how far this excessive heat, and again, I'm calling the excessive the heat index of 110 or above. Once it goes back down to 100 to 105, I'm calling that the breaking of this heat wave. So here you go. There's Wednesday afternoon, and again, in the same ballpark, in that 110 to maybe even up to 115 category across parts of Central Florida. Now, fast forwarding out through Thursday, more of the same. You saw that spike there of 111 degrees, same ballpark, 110 to 115. Now, once we get into Friday, I think this is where we start to get to the highest point, the worst, if you will, the hottest of the hot of this current heat wave. I think Friday into the weekend, 10th, 11th, and 12th, in that ballpark, that is when most of Central Florida are really going to be flirting with 115 degrees. Again, when you factor in the heat and humidity, actual air temperatures are going to be surging to near 100 degrees, dew point temperatures in the mid to upper 70s. And again, that is where you get the heat index of about 115. That stays with us for not only Friday afternoon, but for the weekend ahead. Now, the deal with this is that we're also going to be dealing with the lack of rain across most of Central Florida. Now, rain chances aren't zero. Some lucky few are going to see those cooling afternoon thunderstorms, but with that sinking air, with that stable atmosphere, it's really, really hard to generate widespread thunderstorms, what we are typically used to seeing this time of the year. So there's 8 o'clock on your Tuesday, August 8th. There will be a few thunderstorms out there, especially east of Orlando, closer to I-95. Notice, though, where we need the rain most, really west of Orlando, we're getting hosed again, because of that same big pattern with that high pressure really taking a big bite out of the Gulf Coast states and keeping us on the drier side and on the extremely hot side, again, even for Florida standards. So here's 7 o'clock Wednesday morning. It's going to be steamy. It's going to be sultry. If you're out early for a walk, it's going to be more of the same, maybe some dew all over the windows because of how humid it is. It's going to be ugly outside again. And we're in this kind of pattern without widespread relief over the next 7 to 10 days. So there's 5 o'clock with a few scattered storms. We do get a nice flare up here Wednesday evening, it looks like 8, 9 o'clock, but same deal. It's going to be east of Orlando. That is because the East Coast sea breeze is going to stay pinned with the westerly, very light westerly breeze. And then finally, the West Coast sea breeze comes in and it kind of ignites everything, mainly around and to the east, especially of Orlando. Now, I mentioned about the excessive nature of this heat. So here we go. There's August 9th again from the Florida view. I'm going to quickly, though, fast forward out to August 11th. So a few days from now. Note we are still in the thick of it. 110 to 115 across a lot of the state of Florida. When you see that bright purple and that bright white color table start to show up again, that's when we know that it's crazy hot. Again, it's Florida. It's summer. I get it. It's hot. But when you start getting to 110 or above with those feels like temperatures for this amount of time, for this length, that's when it starts to get a little crazy out there. So I want to fast forward this even further out. Here's August 14th. Not much of a change. Still feeling more like 110 to 115 degrees across most of the state of Florida. It's really not until we get towards August 18th, 17th, 18th. Here's the break. We start to lose those brighter whites and purples. It's still hot. Of course, we all know it if you live in Florida. We don't really get a break, quote unquote, until we get into the latter stages of September, maybe October with one of those cold fronts. This is not a front coming in. This is just that big area of high pressure that I showed you earlier in this video, kind of backing off a little bit, allowing our temperatures and storm chance to return to a little more normalcy as we get towards the 17th and 18th of August, to allow us to cool down, if you want to call it that. 100 to 105. Again, that is what we're going to be backing off towards as we get towards the 17th and 18th. Again, it's not much, but it's better than 110 to 115. I will say, though, looking a little further long range towards that last week of August, that area of high pressure that is kind of chilling over Florida now, that is baking most of the Sunshine State, it does come back. So I do think these excessive temperatures are going to come surging back again for the last week of August. So I don't think this is the last we've seen of the heat. And again, I want to be clear here. It's always hot. This is our hottest time of the year. We're always talking about that heat index of 100 to 105 this time of the year. We're talking about air temperatures in the low to mid 90s. That's what we typically see. But the thermostat pushing 100 and the heat index is 110 to 115, and it's not just that it's that hot. It's that hot for this extended period of time. So again, this is going to be kind of ugly as the kids get ready to go back to school over the next couple of days, and then the week ahead, of course. So there's a lot of heat to talk about. Again, you know the drill. Light colored clothing. You know how to stay safe. Just please, please, please take care of yourself and make sure that you are paying close attention. I know it's Florida. I know it's summer. I know it's hot. I said that like 4 times so far in this video because I know there's going to be comments. It's Florida. It's hot. It's summer. I get it. But again, this is a step above. When you start to see those excessive heat warnings, they're based on the areas of the country that are used to the heat. We are, of course, used to it. This is just kind of a little ugly. Again, once you try to walk the dog in the evening, and typically there's some limited relief in the evening, we're just not seeing that right now because of that big chunk of high pressure. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you found this content helpful and you're tuning in on YouTube, please give it a thumbs up. It does help us out a lot. And if you do want to stay updated on all things Florida weather, especially as we venture through hurricane season, which the tropics are nice and quiet right now, knock on wood, you've come to the right place. Hit that subscribe button, and we will catch you next time.